hunting animals. He also ate the meat of a giraffe and a zebra. He went hunting with me about a week later and started shooting with a bow. He wasn't holding it right. I taught him how to hold it and how to aim at an animal. At his first try, he only shot at a tree, so I must have thought that he never used a bow in his life. But later he killed a rhino, and I said, "Congratulations, friend, you have got me some meat to save for later." He also wanted to position at a parrot, but I said, "Do not kill nice animals, for they are part of a habitat on this island." He went home and I ate meat, and later the next day I showed the man Orchie, Peppa, Harry, and Spotty, who was the dog and German shepherd from the ship. "I would want to see more animals from the island," he said. I said, "I need to look for more animals on this remote place." The man showed me a map of Alexland with every dot. They symbolized every person who lived in a place. Now I will tell you where they lived. It was so red in Karakay, just like in Marcia and my home country. Not many people lived in the mountains and islands and prairies. There was a red area, and that's where the good people lived. Then he showed the rest of the islands in the western and eastern oceans islands. He showed me Cartier Island, where there was no one but so much gold and money. I saw another island, and it was La Villa Uga Buga. It was very small and remote. My merchant told me that we were 50,000 miles from Prosbo. Right after that, I fell asleep, and he also did, and we listened to the rain. The rain hit the roof like rocks in the mountains. After eating breakfast, we went to make a river. Was the river that couldn't flow. I had the man to get some buckets for us and to pour some water into them. He did what I told him, but we tripped walking with buckets. He went to the bay and got water in the buckets. I said good job to him. Then we poured the water into the canal. It looked good, but the man was tempted to drink water from the ocean. I decided to make a canteen. I got him some water from the new canal and built a small rectangular tub and dumped the water in there. I looked for him and said, "You can now drink from my water from my house." He went to my house and noticed that there was a source of water on his side, and he drank a lot of it. The man also wanted a house like mine, so I decided to put his house on the other side of the volcano. I told him that I have to finish the rope bridge to get to build his house. I would also have to bring materials from my house and some from the island, and we would have to walk across to dangerous rope bridge. Also, tornadoes and hurricanes would destroy the roof and some windows in his house. I asked if he liked to come to my house one day, but if he wanted to go with me to the Allure Islands. If I came home with him, he would help me become a trader, which I didn't want to, so I told him that in Alman it's better because it snows a lot. He said that he never saw snow before. The next week, my man wanted to start building his own house. The supplies were quite low, but I saved some for a whole week. So then we could save his meat for a long time. We would also need lanterns inside his house because when it's stormy, he can see anything outside. The man said, "Yes, I'll take it." I also agreed and told him to finish the rope bridge. He started building his part of the bridge to his house, but he was trying to go upward. I advised him to go to the other edge of the mountain. I watched him, but just as he fell into the river, he fell again, but suddenly he got back to his own point. I admired his bridge part that he made, but he also needed a garden on top of the house. I shifted to helping the man get the garden done. Mine was already looking good. I liked that the man had started making a petunia garden. I liked it, so I asked for one. I beckoned the man to grow tomatoes in the garden. He would also grow potatoes. I needed him to make even more Asian tea when I was sick. The plan went very nice, and during the late afternoon, we had lots of work on pounds of barley. The next day, started building a tower with a hurricane deflector. The tower should have been a bit smaller at the top and the poles. I loved making towers, especially with Lego. This reminds me of playing with Lego after a long day of school. I would go to my room and use the toy bin with Legos. To this day in my room, I made a robot, a Star Wars ship, a giant tower, and a plane. The trader hit the water tower and I fell, but water went adjusting into the river. I admired it and blessed the man for making it. I told the man if I wanted to educate him on creating a garden, he wanted beans and kale and vines on his top. I told him to first put the seeds in. Then he put the bottom of the vine. I got some water from the river and we watched each one. I also asked if he wanted tomatoes and vegetables. He beckoned me to do it. I brought out of the seeds to plant them. He watered them and I said to wait a week until they grow. We started noticing that the tomatoes and beans in our parts. The garden was looking good on the 27th of May. I told the man that he is now okay to have his potatoes to eat. I taught him that he has to put the food into the sun for about 3 hours to make it cooked like heat in an oven. Then he was in to cut it with his jackknife to eat it. Then he can eat it with some herbs. I was helping him grow tomatoes on the 30th, so I made soup because the man had a blender and I added basil to his soup when he added sea salt. The climate would be hotter the next week and I worried that a storm might be on the land. The 8th didn't go well. The cannonballs and gobbled and I gave them some meat from a lion. Then they always said something in a weird tone, but the most extreme, they ate in a quick amount. A turtle hatched her eggs in a shady spot on the beach. My man told me that beyond the volcano yonder a wild group of tigers that like to eat people's meat. I went over and sneaked with my friend not there and to the back of the mountaintop. The tigers were not there, and not there the next day. I asked the trader if he was lying, but he said, I just thought. I didn't know why he told me that the tigers were on the mountain. I was thinking of more stuff, like making a swing and place it, like in a park. Now on the 12th, it didn't go nice, for the wind blew like crazy, and my man would neither sleep nor drink. The wind blew harder, but the man walked out of my house. Where are you going? I asked, but he did not answer. I was worried that he would be gone forever. The wind got stronger and animals flew everywhere. When I looked up, I saw a bird flying away, and a rhino running into the jungle. After a minute, the storm was so strong that it picked me up and flew me around. I screamed and cried out for help, but a shark tried biting me into the leg. The storm turned into a hurricane. More animals were picked up and more rain got evaporated as I tried to hold on to a palm tree. I suddenly fell but landed straight into the water. I hid in the base so tornado's energy wouldn't be stronger. The supposition got more differently shaped and I wore strides when not a good idea came to my head. I stayed for an hour in the jungle while animals flew in the air. Some even landed in the bay. I still wondered to this hour where my man was. I didn't see him in my house. The storm slowly ended and I went looking for the man. He wasn't on Mawanipit Point or Kashibata Point, so I checked the mountain and the volcano and the back with his other house by. None of these locations had the man, so where did he hide? Suddenly, a rustle went on in the jungle. Then there were slow to large footsteps. I saw the figure of a man running out of the cave. I went to see if a mean Neanderthal had escaped the cave, but it was my man, and I was shocked that he did not get any cuts or wounds in the terrible storm. The man was from Novatown who gave us pottery and cookies. The greatest shark swam out of the water as I turned the boat. He answered that he stayed in the cave and that I should have stayed with him. He said the weather and climate was unexpected for the day, so was the tornado and wind. I went to see if none of my house was destroyed and no pets were missing, and no one disappeared, and the man went to his house to see if nothing was gone. His house was a little damaged on the walls and roof. The next day we fixed our parts of damage. My pet Peppa had escaped and ran across the bridge to my man's house. The man tied her against the wall and gave her food and water. I told the man that Peppa usually stays in my home and eats grass from my garden. The pig probably liked the man's house more than mine. I told the man that on a hot day to help me take all the expired rice into the crater. He lifted a bucket and put all the remnants of the rice and threw it into the volcano. Later, I adopted a type of garden style. Then, my friend made a bowl of palm branches to put fruit in there. I ordered the rice to make it nice and warm for him. I cooked it for myself too. Before eating our steering meal, I said a prayer in front of my pets. After we ate our meals and I added some salt from my improved backpack from the ship, when the sun began to set, I walked with the merchant to the hilltop to see it. I sat down beside him. I asked him, "Are you going to leave, friend?" Maybe, he said. "The sun is potentially beautiful," I said. "We should meet each other one day, maybe when the pandemic ends, yes? And I will give thee my own books from this house." I was kind of disappointed to see my friend leave, but as I went to bed, I met him on the balcony and said, "Do you want to hear a story?" "Yes, please," he said. So I told him this story. Back in 2015, I had to go to Prosbo Sanctuary for a month because it was the late summer. The year was about to end, but my mom had to give me a train for being a sailor the next year. We trained for months and months of sailing. After June of the next year, I was ready to set sail from Prosbo to Cartier Island. The cold weather changed to hot weather and cloudy days to sunny days. My parents started to pack with me, and I took a special toy to remember that my parents are always listening to my thoughts. My acquaintance would never forget my trip that would be inspired to make a story. New ships arrived from different countries. My family required to say goodbye before I left the port to partner with my crew for the banquet of the ship's 300th anniversary. The man cut me off. "Wow, the ship is an old boat," he exclaimed. I continued to tell the story. The banquet was a proud one to give thanks, like all the English here in Prosbo. We had a classical and Baroque dance class taught by a friend. It started raining after we finished, so we just sat in the parlor and talked about how all our origins happened. We said goodnight before I immediately fell asleep on the grass. The next day, I worked on my garden and vegetational world. My man said, "For my dearest person, the canoe will rescue all his important foods as we prepare to have our ancestors migrate to Persia." I didn't hear what he said, most sentences, so I shall only put in what I heard. The word ancestors spun in my mind like a top spinning at my mom's anniversary by the little children. "Please stop this," I mumbled from inside the cave. The trader stood on Hill Patrioli to praise dear Lord. My ancestors did not live in Prosbo, but in a city called Castorama. The trader went to work on his stuff while I built my pen for the pigs and the sheep, but he started to make a long gray canoe for no reason. I thought the man was crazy about starting a boat industry for Shanghai, which I might use when I'm older. But I stayed until noon working. The merchant rang up in my house to get eating our lunch. I sighed and got some corn to eat, but the man said, "Don't you want to try my new soup from pistachios?" I said, "Okay, I'll try it." I was the best of making chocolate cake during elementary school times. I loved baking bread in cooking school, but once I accidentally spilled the milk all over my friend's pants, and the teacher cleaned it up in no more than a few seconds. Anyways, I put the soup on the chair and closed the soup can with a click. I asked the man why he was leaving. He said, I am going on a mission to a land to give food for poor and money to friends, I asked. I asked sadly, does the world need you? Why, yes, he remarked calmly. The man went over to building his house before the sun started to set as he built his last holes in the roof. I woke up shivering from the cold air from the south, but the man wore his sunglasses again and said, Dear friend, I will leave any time so I can go fix the great world of ours. Before I went back to farming, the trader handed to me a medium-sized diary. You can write in it, friend, he said. What about your bags? I asked. Oh, don't worry, I'll take them. He came to me and hugged me like a toy found in the attic. A tear of sadness dripped down my face. He smiled. I don't want you to go, I grumbled. I said to my trader friend, I would wanted to make a more thought throughout his life. He packed his bags and went to bed, just like I. Chapter 5, My Diary. I'd now like to show you my diary like I did, so here are some days. I noticed that the man on June 21st was gone. He must have traveled on a boat to the Allura Islands. I couldn't find him anywhere on the island. He left something. It was a gemstone which said, In loving memory of Toisia Carabella and Onk Carabella. I didn't know that was the name of his parents or grandparents. June 24th. The rice on my farm and decided was growing plentiful. I could use it for a whole month instead of killing animals. I loved eating Asian food and Galamese food. I even planted some yadra in the volcano. The yadra tasted so good that I planted even more. June 25th. More yadra developed in my garden and rice. I ate them all day and cooked them in my rice and made wooden bowls to make soup out of yadra. The bowls were soft, silky, and could be taken bites out of them. I wanted to take the rice home too. June 27th. The yadra had been a total civilization here. It was made in pottery, toys, books, creations, and items. June 28th. It was very rainy for some hours. June 29th. I had a little headache from 6 to 1 in the afternoon. I prayed to God to help me, and the Lord's Spirit cured me. I made rice with powder. Then I ate yadra with powder. The rice helped me cure myself. June 30th. A number of sheep ran into the jungle like a mixed-up world. The pig sat on the beach and oinked very loudly. The table shook. July 1st. I explored the top of the volcano once again, but I encountered a snake in the mountain. I was ready to go onto the volcano again. July 2nd. As I shuffled up the volcano, I required good strides and a musket to shoot anything bad. Wildlife on the other island thrived from above. July 3rd. I ate yadra for the day because it tasted good and it was growing to the top of the mountain. July 6th. The grass turned green and I planted trees in the empty fields of the land. My dog sniffed a mother bird, which he never really did. July 7th. The clouds came in quickly. It rained after swimming in the bay with the 1997 computer. July 10th. I carried my muskets to the other house and I mounted Peppa. She took off at a moderate pace and I got to ride her smart Orchie. July 11th. I heard a rumbling noise during the night and started to see it raining. July 12th. A big wind hit my house when I woke up, but I noticed my crops were gone. July 16th. I replanted my farm for now because it took me almost the whole week to fix it. No one should worry about my house because the sun made the crops grow through the day. My aunt in Afghanistan told me to always stay and remember your heart. July 18th. A windy, partially sunny day warmed again, for I got to eat my crops and goods. The bad weather became good weather. July 20th. The sun came out as I woke up with a stretch and a yawn. I worked on mining in the cave. The nun in the cave got helpful to build a balcony. July 21st. More rain and then sun. July 23rd. I cut a tree for a bench and I sat in the shade, making my new farmland of eternity. July 24th. My house got attacked by a hippo, but I screamed loudly so it could go away. The jungle was hotter than ever. July 25th. I went in my canoe to the sea and sailed for about 8 hours, and I saw an island with indigenous tribes. I didn't sleep until I got home at 11 p.m. July 28th. I celebrated my 14th birthday by making a lamppost at the end of my table. I collected my fruits in the bowls during dinner. July 29th. My birthday unfortunately ended. I took the candles back to the stairwell near the beach of my wonders. The big fruits were put under the bus, for I had a big dark forest. July 30th. A big lion came to eat my crops, but I shot the lion and persuaded myself if I can build a tower to look out, and began the ship conquest. August 3rd. I practiced more of shooting at the target. The first few ones didn't go well, but the next ones were bullseye. Then I shot again with new bullets in my musket and got my revenge. August 9th. The big day came. It was my parents' 27th anniversary. I said a prayer to give thanks for this great anniversary of the parents. My cake was made of yada rice, for I did not have any rice grown yet. One time, my great-grandma Jellerin told me to work hard for freedom. August 11th. A great big wind came from the east, because I didn't sleep one wink, because the wind blew on my head as the pesky rain dripped on my roof. The wind blew and it rained for the whole day. I was forced to stay inside until the rain swished into the distance. I had not grown a single tomato for about 4 months. The sun came out as I woke up to my feet on August 14th. I was still going on an adventure for about 35 years until I'm a pilot. I'm always dreamed of being a pilot. August 16th. The weather said it was sweltering on the 1997 computer, but it was freezing outside. My head got freezing just as I blacked out because of an unpredictable condition. August 18th. You're asking if I came to. The sun was setting and I didn't know what happened to myself. August 20th. A sunny day uncasually. The sun didn't shine for the whole day, but the tomatoes and corn seemed to grow presently. My farm was growing quicker than I thought, for it had the vegetables that were new. August 21st. I haven't read the Bible in a really long time, so I began at Deuteronomy and read for a few more days. I read an hour daily, but I wanted to read until the New Testament. August 24th. I finished reading the book of Joshua and moved on to Judges chapter 1. My grandfather took me to church once and I read 2 books in an hour. August 26th. I want no connection between the 2 parts of La Villa Ooga Booga. So I started to carve a creek in the center of the 2 parts until it shaped triumphantly and more better. I took my pistol and musket to practice shooting for the shooting contest in 2035. My parents are allowed to come there. August 27th. I cast lots by dividing the land for more inhabitable land. The wolves were very immune to the farmland here. The quantity of grain I needed to make bread was 8 and 40. The man was praying for something. He showed me the map of Alexland. August 28th. I had a prayer to tell God that I was 1 year on this foreign island. I put my foot on the place where I stepped. August 29th. I started building a water slide that runs down the volcano. August 31st. I finished halfway through the water slide. Then I started building 2 days ago. The slide went down the mouth of the volcano's crater, but I could not make it larger. September 2nd. An abundance of fruit sat in my bowl that I made from yadra. I got a vineyard near the tents of my valley, which I like calling it. The sun wasn't here, and it was so dark in the land that I had to sleep. September 8th. The hot sun burned in my head like a hot summer day in Australia. I sweated for an hour until the sun set. September 12th. The cluster of grapevines grew in my vineyard like a seaman awaking on a stormy day. September 14th. My handkerchief fell into the bay. I stomped my foot angrily for what I had seen. My handkerchief was wet for the whole night. I guess this isn't so easy as it seems. September 15th. I went shark watching and I took the computer too. The sharks came out more further this time. September 16th. I again went shark watching. I realized that I didn't bring my computer with me. I had to just look with my reflector glass. The minute I did, a shark leaped at me going back into the ocean. September 18th. My bracelet was about 2 years old now, and my friend Hoha gave it to me on September 18th, 2019, and I wore it 2 years later. My farm vegetables grew again. September 19th. In only about 3 days' time, the harvest would come. I could work on reading the books I found a year ago, for I was seeing these books. I wanted to encourage myself to read all of the books. September 22nd. It was harvest day in Vormatic calendars. I am past my farm and harvested my corn and potatoes. My farm was easy not. I partitioned between a bag and a sack. The sack was way better. September 23rd. I started reading The New Dale by Rionda Lanclovia. The first chapter was when Ronaldo Docan sailed upon Caracay to the Alora Islands in 1582. Well, not long after, Mistletoe, his dog's name, tries to bark at the sea looking for fish. He drinks and eats for 4 years, and he hopes to see the Allori soon. Ronaldo got to a new land. It was called Farlandia, today called the Fartherlands. September 24th. I woke up and was attacked by a wild beast in the forest. I yelled at the top of my lungs to scare it away. It ran away, and I mixed palm leaves in my soup to make it tasty. My musket was again stolen by a monkey or a gorilla, which I could have shot. September 22nd. I couldn't believe how Ronaldo Docan sailed there when no person has been there in history. A plentiful amount of gold was found there. September 29th. No innumerable person has ever been to our city, Projbo for those who don't know, but questioning myself at this mutiny, how could some traitor get to my island when I only heard my splashing? Maybe it was just an imagination? September 30th. The indigenous people of Caracay were poorly treated. They stayed in residential schools from the 1870s to 1980s in Caracay. I learned about it in elementary school while I sailed with my crewmates. They said that they also went to a residential school in the late 80s. I didn't have an orange shirt in my place, but I wore a purple t-shirt. The last remaining residential school in Alexland is in Caiaphas, Feta State, and it still stands. October 1st. I wrote in here in the late evening because I had to do the harvest. The air became hotter because the winter came in a few months in North Alexland. October 3rd. The cold freezing day had begun. The new enclosure of my new house was done. I took a step onto my rope bridge, but collapsed as I stepped on 2 feet on it. It took me in a league of the day to start building. October 4th. I fixed my house, my broken rope bridge, while my eggs were cooking in there. I made a necklace of palm leaves and painted my house purple and brown. I made a bark decoration. October 5th. The cozy bed was very hot that I slept for 3 hours more. The arable land got cold not because it would snow, but the wind blew on the shelves of the bay. I went to the cave where I had not mined for a month. The weather grew even colder than yesterday. October 7th. I lit a fire in my fireplace. I transformed myself like I was really sitting at home. I ran to the other side of the island and back home to warm up. October 8th. I took a break from hunting on the water and slide. It ran down quickly and protectively like the time I splashed into my toy pool at home when I was little. It splashed into the bay and I swam around until some dolphins came to play. October 10th, 11th, and 12th. Thus I was finishing my cleaning of my house. I built a strong laboratory tower and a religious part on the other building for talking to God. October 13th. The boats of the banks of the canal went very dry. The canal overflowed, making the dishes upon it dry to wet. I was kind of anxious to see it rain. I'll be back in just a second. I'm going to just get myself a drink. All right, let's get back to reading. October 15th. The jungle was more colder than at the volcano because it was hot the moment I put the coat on. I went into the volcano but saw it was gurgling in there, which in my convenience could have ended badly. October 16th. Orchie squawked for food and Harry flew by just as I trampled from my seat to write this. October 17th. My discourage got more worse as time went by. I couldn't find Harry anywhere. My tree line was halfly damaged, so after the prayer for God, I planted about 9 to 18 palm trees in about a barrier format. October 19th. An egg hit me for a few hours. I neither sat nor slept, so under the cold sun I sat up and looking very ignorantly, I cried, "Holy Lord, help me sleep and stand up, for I cannot be healed. So I need your gracious help." I felt better after sleeping 3 hours. October 21st. The morning sun was hot and sweltering. Something unspeakable caught my eye. It was a boat of a few men with guns and prisoners. I got out of my house, took my gun, spotty, and my canteen and ran to the beach. How to shoot the guys that stole the stuff that derived from Alman or Alho. October 22. The men were sleeping in the hut I built about 9 months in the past. They stood silent on the beach and then took their stock and ran to my house trying to break in. I shot both dead and buried them inside the giant cave. I scared the prisoners, which are the first of my village. I saved the prisoners, which were both in my village. October 23rd. The 3 prisoners went to their huts after I offered them food and milk from a cow in the wooden yadra pots. 4 widows came out, too, to require some milk of mine. This town would grow very quickly, and I'd have indigenous people from the world would love to stay on my island for the rest of life. The widows would also dug a canal in the cold. October 24th. My poor farm wasn't growing again. I figured out the right seeds. October 25th. Very sunny and burning. October 26th. The sun burned in my forehead as like a ping pong ball on a hot palm tree. The crops grew for only 2 days, but I was harvested them. The rain came pouring down after the night shifted. October 27th. I had to forsake my land, but the ship would come to carry me home eventually. My friends have missed me for more than a year and probably have returned to the Alho Islands to migrate. I do have to pray, for in a quarter of the day they leave. October 28th. The day has come. Everyone must pack up in the Alho Islands to leave the country. The weather would be hot in the ocean. It will be freezing cold. Everyone must come to the airport at 7:30 on October 31st for the first planes. My friends said they will migrate next year, probably because of a big change in the climate, that is. October 29th. The tornado once again came and I stayed in a big mess of stuff. Keep in mind that our ship was once damaged from the storm. My crops were once more harvested. October 30th. I was now kind of perishing for hunger since I spent a few hours in the jungle with no water or food. I wanted to find a Tolian elephant to eat, but no animal was in the jungle. Instead, they were on the other island. I went over to find an elephant, but didn't find one until a roar came from the jungle. About 100 elephants were there. I killed one and cooked it because I have not eaten this in 7 months. October 31st. The Alho migration was starting. I will tell you what this event is happening now. After sunset, the immigration will line up for the planes, and one by one the people will get on board. Tomorrow they will land in their new country. There will be music and a national anthem, but the Alho that didn't behave or committed crimes will stay in the Alho Islands. That is a sad event because they will have to end their own civilization and culture. This is going to change the life forever for Alho kind. November 1st. I felt better. November 2nd. The wind blew like crazy and the cannibals attacked the prisoners. I took my musket and shot each attacking cannibal right in the heart. I cannot deny to tell you what the photos would be like. November 3rd. The Alho people are now reaching the cities of Kral and Rockford in our Halnana. They have the first, second, and third planes already. They also have the fourth planes. Now, today, the fifth and sixth planes pick the people up. In the planes, there are a total of 256 planes picking up 4 million people to carry a long distance away. The migration lasts 7 days until everyone is ready to move. All of their belongings and stuff like portraits are going to be moved to the plane's baggage area. My farm was all done and ready for the flooding season. The flooding season is from January to April and the harvest from August to December. November 4th. I looked up from my new balcony to see about five cars of native people. They all were making their way into the huts. The children were all staying in the huts, for I prepared a meal and drinks for the people. I counted 50 First Nations. They sat round the fire they made, but I went home to take my little spyglass to see what they were doing. They were praying to the Lethroic god of power. I looked over a big rock for the First Nations to make sure they didn't get anything. The day was very foggy and rainy for a few hours, but it stopped before I went to bed. Okay, next chapter is going to be exciting. Chapter 6, A New Visitor. On a foggy morning, I heard gunshots. I took my weapons and protection to see a boat crash with cannibals' dead bodies. There was one who was okay. I ran with him to my house. I pinched him and he got up. He asked me something in an unknown language, which sounded familiar. I noticed that my ears were plugged, so I asked the man if he was okay. He said it again, but I knew that the cannibal was speaking Alhoic. I asked him, Dan poti okay? That means, are you okay? He suddenly said, Kai, yes. I said, Seyaya idomal komelo lea eke. That's nice because I have something. The man asked if he could see my house. I said, okay. He answered with expression on his face. He touched some of my pets. He said, Luab zoe ravi. They're soft. The young man was sensitive also and kind. I taught him how to say yes, no, and Alex, for that was my name, and come. The next day I wrote those words in my journal so my friend could remember. The island seemed to be expanding exceedingly faster, like a man climbing a mountain. The man looked at me with a strange look. He asked if he wanted something to eat. He said yes in English. I said, Darigalo agakilahov kraksai no alho. Are the alho migrating? He said yes. I felt bad for the alho because this event changed their lives forever. I gave him food and fresh water. The sun came out and I grew yadra for him. He began to wander in my house. I made some clothes for him, a red robe from wool and a shoe size large for my dear friend. He was a black person, like an African back on earth. He was tall, but I was a little more slender than him. I was just, don't worry, I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but he was from a tribe which is an Alho. So I told him to say cave in English. The person's belly was plump and he looked like he hadn't come to home for a decade. I taught him how to make a bow and an arrow. He had the vivacity of a young child. His skin was purple with embarrassment. I brought him to the house and said, "Cien lo da poti, a meal for you." My man slept well and didn't remember what happened to his fellow Alho on board that small boat. He asked, "Do you come to here?" "No, I came here a year ago," I said. "The ship was very big, had 34 crewmates, a dog, and it had a kitchen, garden, golf, tennis, and a pool." "What is pool, golf, and tennis?" he asked quietly. "Tennis and golf are sports that you play with a ball and you hit them with a racket," I explained. "And a pool is a long, deep tub with water. Whatsoever needs water in the deep thing is called a tub." My supposition of my house was like a palace, to be honest. My man was a cannibal, so he could eat people from different nations, but I told him to stay away from killing animals and cooking their flesh. I taught him how to say more English words like master, help, rejoice, come, and I reduce, refuge, come, and I taught him how to fish and bake it. A canoe of natives arrived, and the man, they said, "They here." I hid behind a rock at the cove of the east. He stood then, brought gifts to the house across the river. I beckoned my man to come and teach me how to speak Alho fluently. Jadva meant slowly, Poti means you, and Sule means surrender on a battle. Next day I had a headache like my man. I decided to call my man Lant, which means Monday in Alho. A strong wind blew like we would be in some windy dream. Lampt woke up refreshed and he made a bag from Yadra rice, which he said was a total civilization, just like I. He went to sleep in my newly built house during the night. We could have frozen to death by this horrid condition. Lampt was sleeping deeply, but I was eyes wide open. The next day I taught him how to build a pool and make the river on my account and reposed the beach with crabs. We even looked for one crab that was born. A crab pinched Lamb's foot. "Master, thee hurt," he yelled. I put the crabs in the water just as the sun blistered over my small eyes. We got to cooking. My mem said, "Does you cook in box?" I can explain this as, "Do you cook this in the furnace?" "Yes," I said softly. "You put it in and leave it for a few minutes." Lamp stomped his foot that shook the ground. The fish was done. I cut it and Lamp began to eat it. The man woke up the next day and I asked where my origin is from, for I am a white. I said that my ancestors are Nortal Stampian, but I'm Armenian. He was from the Kriya Kriya, a type of Alho, I said. The more we travel, the better we learn. On November 12th, I taught my man how to stay hidden in my dome, for the Alho cannibals could attack. "No come they," he shouted as I shot on one of them. My guy yelled again, "They no run to you," as I tripped over a big stone that crashed onto a cliff. The groups were very scared that they tripped into their house after the gunshots were heard. Lamb said, whining, "Why do you shoot them?" "I had to save you, for no one would ever decide to flee from the enemies," says I. Then here's the rest of the day. My man comes to me and says, "Can you make art from wool?" I say, "Yes." "Do you work at Freme?" asks he. "No, but I go to high school in Projbo." Lamb said, "Do you go home?" "Well, I will go home next month because we will go to home," exclaimed as I dropped the package of old books from the old ages. As we watched the moon come up, my man said, "Master, you're very good people," which I thought he meant, "Master, you are a very confident person." I also said to the man, "You are a very intelligent and reacting person." After the week passed, we had to work very sternly like two widows working for a man in the house. After we worked in the fields, we picked up again and our plant became more grown, like an adult in their 30s. But my parents were old enough to pay taxes during a trip to pt.2 by car. Anyways, next day, we went to a cave and Lampt ordered me to come with him. I want you to be brave and not lead me everywhere you go, I said. I followed him for the last time. We went to where the great boulder was. He tried moving it, but Lampt realized he was pushing it. As he blew harder, he already moved the rock in the cave. You see, he says, you are a very strong man, exclaims I. Okay, he said. We looked for gold and copper. I gave him a history lesson. In 1620, a famous miner, Robert Le Cheveux, mined for 16 days in a mine in Quality Station. He found lots of rich supplies after he returned to Shanghai. The miner died at only 61 years old in Quartz. The men looked for his body but found it in a mine on Perthy Island in the country of Quartz. The abstract was that he found much money and gave him to the AMCH, Alex Land Mining Constitution Hall. Lampt gasped at a shiny metal, which didn't look like a rock. This is ore? He asked, jolly. I took out a closer look at it. It is, I prefaced. How did you know? I am a smart person, and I am from smart peoples, he explained. All Alho people, especially Kents, are smart gentlemen. Then he took an axe, but I said, no, we use a pickaxe to do the job. Why, asks he. Because the axe will mine out the whole rock, I explained. The man says, do we hide on men? I will tell you when we hear them, says I. We suddenly heard gunshots in the outside. Without a word, I took Lamp's pickaxe and I hid. We stayed until on the rocks of the coast, and Lamp bellowed, come out, ye men of travel, land in Alho and land. I told him to go into the cabin, and I give gunshots to the men. Get ready for this, I yelled as the cannibals were looking ready to shoot at me or Lamp. I killed 3 and wounded 9. Lamp killed 1 and wounded 16. But the greatest victory was held when 18 cannibals fled and sailed away into the west, probably to the far lands. Anyways, it was the 16th and I taught my man Lamp to speak English. He seemed to learn this very quickly, but the difficulty got higher. I taught him words like constitution, forgiveness, sorriness, milpits, the types of bouquets, almond, rearrivate, and present. The words seemed unpredictable to him, but at the end of the day, he learned them all by memory, not by calculator, as my teacher said. The man said not to go up to an interference of 20 meters, otherwise the enemies will kill. I listened to every step Lamp said. After we cooked the pie of grains, we went out to take a nice bath in the jungle. The jungle was so beautiful living there. We boosted into the lake of some which kind, if water filtered. I was ready to tell my man about where my name was as the sun blisters in the sky. I turned to him and said, my name is Alex Holmwell. I come from Projbo, which you already know. He informed me about what happened in November next year. The Alpha will still stay at home in Terma or Poetis. These people are called home wizards. They stay in a foreign country or their land. I asked where Lamp lived, but he didn't want to tell me, so he must have been around Suapa, the isolated islands in North Ireland. In Alho, The gunmen in the city of Kent are now attacking Santa Camelia, I told him. Lamp wailed so hard that the bookshelves crashed. No, I shrieked. The books were very precious. I banged myself on the door. Ow, I cried as Lamp ran up to me. I drank my whole soup as I hit the table. He saved the soup and I spun just as I hit the back cages of Orchie. He leaped out and sprang around the house. Lamp chased him back into his cage, but he escaped and we both chased him. I hit my head again on the door and I collapsed, and Lamp raced to me. The house was a total mess of eternity, but we couldn't hit the hay because we had to repair the whole house. I took the pipes and my man took all the books. We cleaned and unclogged our minds to see if this nonsense was real or fake. At last, we went to bed and thanked God for saving the house. At this, I had a very specific dream. The man started making a canoe for no reason. The trader gave me a medium-sized diary. A group of agents were disordering my thoughts, so this is like what he had the dream. So I could stop flaming about this nonsense. I was taken to a faraway land on the sea, and our boat crashed, and we lived on an island said to be Smolkirk in the Shetland Islands. I helped build my house that broke yesterday. We tidied up a part where the roof of Lamb's house and the roof of my house were particularly breaking light off, and the sun gave a shine that God was with all of us. Lamb wasn't Christian, so I taught him a little bit about God, or Jesus, that is. My guy started speaking English and Alho. If you want to know a secret, I learned to speak Alho at just 4 years old. You should also enable this fact. I am very good at playing the violin and viola. A man smart as me should play like a pro of a great student. My abilities could make the world see me and my friends. I had a cat when I was young, but he ran away when I was 3. As a matter of fact, I never knew his name, but I kept playing with him until he was mad at me for taking off his collar, which most pets do have, for they can run away. So I gave my man an opportunity to play with some of my animals. Now that you know a little bit more about me, I will continue on with the story. The day didn't go well for my animals when all were running and rummaging around the house. The hardest part was to inspect them and to care the house. They gave up, and this time they went into their cages. I warned them that if they come out, I will lead them all into the jungle. I didn't want to do this. I decided to get the new teaching of Lamp when the next day struck about 8. I leaped out of my residence and went across to the rope bridge to see my friend Lamp. He murmured, "Dan Potikoy, Alex? Are you Alex?" I said, waiting for him. He was also taught Tai Chi, an Asian yoga exercise, and Yudgod Band. I have a good sportsmanship in Projbo, so I want to teach him to hunt. He used a musket to take out the stick or branch. I grabbed the pistol and said, "No, no, no! You could have killed me. Watch out if this happens." "I am so sorry," Lamb said, bringing the gun in the cave because he could have hit me. Once everything was safe, I climbed out of my house and took my yadra rice once again outside for cooking. "This is how you cook," I said to Lamp. "You put the rice in the sun for 2 hours. I really to make Polson for Lamp's IQ and give him a chance." As I rummaged through my collection of items, I found a good pistol in a big ammonite chest in the big cane at Lance. I finally taught him how to shoot at a big target made of rocks on the volcano. I asked my guy for what would be a face for him. "I go with learning till next month," he rejoiced, how he would dance in a party room at midnight. I was very peppy and exulting to go see some sharks in the ocean. I kept being keen to teach the man wherever he could be. I was so secure to be here from all my friends attacking the city when I was 8. As a student, my man asked me some mathematical questions with his numerals, and I had to guess it. Once I guessed the numerals, Lant took me on a fishing boat on a walk throughout La Villa Uga Buga and across a partitioned area where a big tornado turned absolutely into a hurricane. I had no hopeless feelings even when the man wanted to take time out to a boat and into the Western. The Western is the ocean. I advised my cannibal, and I went very, very early to bed after Lamp worked across the bridge to his house. One other person got into a special boat, I read when I opened where I left off on my scrolls. I took some bacillary glands on me and washed in the river before I was about to go right away to snoozing. I put the book down right after I snoozed into a wishful dream. I was in a small village in North Afghanistan with all my friends and a wish ball. Make a wish, all the residents grumbled, ordering me to wish something. I won't really tell you what my wish is because a lot of people will do something about it. I wished for something and blew out a big thyroid candle on a house roof. And that's the end of the dream. Now that Lant engrassed his entire hill by the volcano crater, I could get lava and put it in the river to form a cold rock called obsidian. I put it on the stove to cook with a pan. As I got some olive oil into my bucket from Kashibata Point, Lamp staggered into me. What is it? I asked, not looking away from my bucket. I see you pour out water. The next day, I was still pouring some oil into my bucket. It is no water, I said, looking for a so-called canola plant. This is called canola, I stammered. You pour in some olive oil into this bucket and then you wait about half an hour in the sun. But today wasn't a Ganesh sky day, so we had to stay inside when the Arctic winds blew south to Quality Station. I fell asleep and I heard a noisy knock on my front door later on. Anyone fidgeting at the door? I stared when all of a sudden a man's footprints came up. There was no reply. Was Lamp attacked by someone from the despisers? Was it a dream? Did I get teleported back home? No, it was a loud bang bang that came from outside somewhere at 1:40 a.m. As I was about to go back to bed, a blasphemy and a furies in the bay or jungle happened. It happened to the entire house, and I fell asleep on the spot. I never knew if Lant was in that consequence, but if he was, I had to save him. Lamp, 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 I yelled at the top of my lungs. Here I am, he shouted at the top of the volcano. He would really satisfy me with a surprise like that. My man disposed on the grand rocks, and the gunshots was heard in the morning. Hey, traveler, a captain said, are you from Kiathar or Kretos? I rejected my pistol on the rock, but Lamp ran up to me and shot 3 bullets at a time, killed 4 men and wounded 14. I shot at the hut, killed 1 widow, and shot the killing man upon the cabin. This is what's keeping me awake, I yelled. The next day was birdseed as soon as Lamp learned a lot of English. Were you from Hartana? I asked, sitting on a rock. He took out a map and clearly saw that the Beechers and he were a part of the Alho Islands tribe community near Shanghai of the Northeast. I taught him formal, informal, correct things in English. As I taught him more English fluent, my man spoke like a Solstampian, which is kind of like an English, like a British section. With my guy's help, I asked the person to know that I was here in this remote island in a chronicle ocean in the other side of Alex Land. I took my small marker and drew with my friend. This is called a marker, I explained to him. I used a big rock to finish up your helpful cabbage cave drawing, I said to Lamp, rummaging inside his house. Do you draw my helpful... Do you help my drawing temple? He asked, eating his early breakfast. I'm ready to go into the Pacific, blue ocean to go whale watching. When we all got into our bilging boat, I pumped up the oars and went out. I saw a beautiful world in front of us. Hi, Brennan. Hi, PJ Brenny. I went into the ocean. I watched the cannibals flee from us the next morning when I shot into the air at chrome speed. The fun fact that whales spend most of the time in the sea or water that they fish for the closest fish there. So like they fish for the closest fish when they're in a certain body of water. Speaking of whales, during the harsh weather and during the wettest, most hottest day that year, my fish were very low. I woke up my friend and he was relaxing in the sun. Do you acquire your motor on this boat? He asked. Boat, I corrected him as I caught a 2-pound mackerel. We also saw a pack of whales traveling at moderate speed before dinner. When I taught my guide to read books in English, I remained to teach him how to unfiller a thread when saving my shirt that was bitten a few days ago by a tiger in the jungle when I finished taking a bath. Do you put the yarn through or the other way? He asked, rocking in his Batoris chair for reading stories for young children. Okay, when I finished it, I put it on and wore it until the next day. Lamped, buddy, be careful with the bow and arrows, I warned him. This gave me a preposterous thought. I'll teach him how to shoot at a target. Get set, he shouted as he shot on an obroid arrow at the target. Why does it always land there? He yelled, and that I had to make him calm down. It's okay, I said to him. Day after day, he shot at the target but didn't succeed on it. How does this work? He asked. You put it on here and you aim at the point, I explained as he prepared. When he cloaked back and blinked slowly, he looked at the target and shot bullseye. I did it, he said happily. Yay, I cheered, hugging my relative, kind of. The next day, I gangled and rewarded my friend with some gifts from Alman and gave him a few books to take home. I taught him a little more English and I fished with him and caught a tuna and an eel. We cooked it and I taught him and he worked for that happy day by himself. He built a canoe for the cannibals to set sail, a shelf, tamed his own parrot, which he named Zoanant, and many more. The sun stared at us going to sleep, and I sat with Lamp looking for a star. My man could be famous one day in Alpha. For now, my guy was completely educated. Okay, guys, so I would like to end there. Part 3 will be tomorrow or the next day after that. So, see you guys later. Bye.